Na 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 na. New show alert here at Chat Sports, hosted by me. It's called Four Verts, an NFL and college football podcast style show, and I'm hoping you'll join me for the ride. Let me just tell you a little bit about this channel and this show, as it is a video podcast style show, so you'll still see me, and there will be some graphics, but more podcast, free-flowing style, NFL content, college football content. I love college football. Excited to get to talk more college football now. And I do want to make this clear, because I got a couple of DMs. Nothing is changing with Bears now. This is still my priority here at Chat Sports. I just had the hunger and desire to do more and to talk more about the broader stories in the NFL, the big stories out there, and to dive into some college football coverage. 12-team playoff now. I think the excitement is going to be higher than ever in that sport. And if you'll subscribe at youtube.com/@4verts, put the link in the comments into the description. If we get to 200 subs before our Bears Now live show tomorrow, I'll do a beer boot. Why not? I hope you guys will support me. If you love the NFL and college football as a whole, this will be a show for you. Give us a subscription. It's 100% free. Got some juicy Bears news and rumors to dive into. I'm Harrison Graham. We are presented by Roan here on today's show. I've been with Roan for a couple of years. Love their clothing products. Go check them out. 20% off with code ChatSports at roan.com/chatsports. Haason Reddick trade rumors have resurfaced because, well, there's just a lot going on with the New York Jets. They, of course, traded for Reddick from the Philadelphia Eagles before the NFL draft. But he's holding out at training camp as he wants a new deal, which the Jets knew that when they traded for him, that he wanted a new deal. That's why Philly traded him. They didn't want to pay up. And so now there's just chatter circulating that could they just flip him if they can't figure out a new contract with Reddick, which would just be classic Jets, right? Like, it already is classic Jets. Like, you trade for a player who's frustrated with his contract 4 months ago, and you still haven't paid him. Like, what did you think was going to happen? Now, I don't know what Reddick is asking for, but it's just unbelievable to me. The only time he's been in their building was for the press conference introduction. He has not been there since. Didn't go to OTAs, didn't go to minicamp. He's not at training camp. And now the Jets are kind of stuck trying to figure out what they can do here. And look, Haason Reddick's one of the better pass rushers in the NFL. 11 or more sacks in 4 straight seasons. He's played more in 3-4s than in 4-3s, but I do think he can be a 4-3 edge rusher. I do think a few important things to know. What would a trade value be? Well, they traded a conditional 2026 third-round pick for him that can turn into a second depending on certain incentives. So not a huge offer, right? Third 2 drafts from now. His cap hit this year, so if you were to trade for him, it'd be $14.25 million. So you'd have to be prepared to extend him to lower that number for this year. Because the Bears roughly have $12-ish million in cap space right now. He's set to be a free agent next year, hence why he wants to get paid. He's 30 years old, hence why he wants to get paid. He knows this is probably his last big payday. And that from the first line, I meant to have an asterisk at the end of it, it was a conditional third-round pick, like I mentioned. I think if the Jets flip him, they got no leverage. It would have to be less than a third, right? Like, I don't see a team out there being like, well, you guys couldn't figure it out, so we'll pay you just as much as you paid to get him, and we'll just figure it out ourselves. I think the Jets would be kind of caught with their pants down, if you will, and just kind of take what they would have to get. Now, this would be my offer. Haason Reddick to Chicago for a 6th this year, conditional 4th next year that could turn into a 3rd. So a 4th and a 6th, essentially, for Haason Reddick, who's not a, tier 1 NFL defensive end pass rusher, but tier 2. He's a really, really good player. Would you make this trade? Type T for trade or P for pass. After the YouTube ad break goes, I will continue this discussion. I think it all depends on an extension cost because clearly there's friction there on what the Jets want to pay him, what he wants to get. So I'll explore what I think an extension could look like here in a minute, kind of take a look at the highest paid edge rushers in the NFL, and then we'll dive into whether or not this could make sense for the Bears. But I do want to talk a little bit more about our sponsor, Roan, before we get there. And I just can't speak highly enough about the commuter collection from Roan, the world's most comfortable and flexible set of clothing products known to man. They've got pants, dress shirts, short sleeve polos, which I love to rock. They have blazers, shorts. You can get fitted for any occasion with Roan, and not only are you going to look good, but you're going to feel comfortable. You're going to feel good as well. Their 4-way stretch fabric, which you can see right here, is absolutely fantastic. I'm always feeling comfortable around the office rocking Roan shirts. And listen, I go to the golf course. I've got a couple other dress shirts if I'm, going to a wedding or, we have an important day at the office, big meeting or something like that. So I'm ready to go. And the best part about Roan, not only are we giving you 20% off with code ChatSports at checkout, machine washable. So you're going to save money in the long run. You don't have to go to the dry cleaners anymore. So ditch your old nice clothes. Get in with the new with Roan. Roan.com/chatsports. That's RHONE.com/chatsports. Use code chatsports to get 20% off at checkout. Now you take a look at the highest paid edge rushers. Excuse me, had a tickle in my throat. Per year, average annual value. It ranges from 22 to 34. Like Nick Bosa's kind of in a world of his own. That's probably around the range Micah Parsons is going to want from Dallas, etc. Josh Allen, Brian Burns both got paid this offseason in that 28 range, top TJ Watt. And then it drops a little bit. Myles Garrett, Montez Sweat, 24.5, of course, here with the Bears, which Ryan Poles did a nice job of getting good value there. And then all the way down to Bradley Chubb at 22. I would imagine Reddick wants to be inside the top 10. Like he wants higher than Bradley Chubb. He would probably push to be 5 or 6. I'm not paying him more than Montez Sweat. Sweat's younger. You've already invested into him with the second-round pick and with the big contract. I'm not topping that deal for Haason Reddick. That doesn't mean I wouldn't pay Haason Reddick. That doesn't mean I wouldn't like to bring him to this football team. This is kind of what I'm looking at here. This would be my contract offer. 3 for $66, $22 million per year, $45 million guaranteed. It's a pay raise from his last contract. His last deal was 3 for $45, which he clearly outperformed. So you go from 15 a year to 22, which, he probably wants 25, 26. In reality, he's 30 years old now. I think this is a fair medium, puts him right at number 10, average annual value, good security with 2 years basically guaranteed there, $45 million. It's essentially a 2+1, right? Like 25 and 26, he'd be locked in addition to the final year of his contract this year. And then the last year, if the Bears wanted to get out of that contract, they essentially could do so. So that's what I would do if he became available and the Bears caught wind from his camp that a contract around that range would get it done. I would do it. Otherwise, I'm probably looking elsewhere if he's looking to just completely break the bank. And by the way, do the Bears have the answer at that number 2 edge spot? Maybe they do. Well, at least Eric Washington had some interesting words to say about a certain player. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. But listen, if the Bears make a big move like trading for Haason Reddick or signing a huge free agent, not that there's many big-name free agents left, we're going to go live here on the channel. So subscribe and turn on notifications. That way you know exactly when we do go live here on Bears Now. We would appreciate the love and support. Jake Martin. Is Jake Martin the answer? The free agent edge they signed from the Colts. He's reportedly been turning heads at Bears training camp through 4 practices. He's gotten some reps with the ones where they've kicked DeMarcus Walker inside in certain drills. So that's pretty interesting. Now, a little background on Jake Martin. He played his college ball at Temple. 6th-round pick for Seattle in 2018. Was only there 1 year. Ended up in Houston for about, 2.5 years or so. And then he bounced around for a season. I think it was Denver and can't remember the other team, but in 2022. Played last year with the Colts, and then this is now his 7th team the 6th team in 7 years. 1-year deal with the Bears. And you look at his career stats, it's, I'll say this, pretty consistent, right? In terms of pass rush production, he's basically a 3-sack-a-year guy on average. I mean, he's got 9.5, quick math, 13.5, 2.5 gets you to 16, 18 sacks in 6 years. That's exactly 3 per year. That's kind of what he is. So, certainly worthy of being on a 53-man roster. And Eric Washington had pretty strong words about him as well. He said, Jacob has great speed and quickness, very athletic. He's an excellent space player, but he's really sturdy at the point of attack. We can anticipate his role being as a 3-down defender. Now, that's pretty strong, 3-down defender. He did play 700 snaps in 2021, so that's pretty close to a full-time starter. That year he was close to a full-time starter with the Houston Texans. But in the other 5 years of his career, he's never played more than 300 snaps. That's the most he's played in a year. He's usually in the 200 range. So let's just say on average, outside of that outlier, 700 snaps, he's 250 snaps per year. Well, you think about it, 16 or 17 game season, you're playing, what, quick math, 12 to 15 snaps per game, 15, 16 snaps per game. That's a rotation pass rusher. And I think that's what he is. So the 3-down defender thing to me, that's a little strong. Now, based on what they have, maybe they feel that way. But I think that's a reach. That's a stretch. I do think he can be a rotation guy. I think he could be your third edge or for sure a fourth edge. I'm not saying he shouldn't make this team. But guys 6, 7 years into their careers that have been one thing rarely become something else. Like, you kind of know what he is at this point. He's worthy to be on your team. He can come in on third downs and rush the passer. Every down, though, 75% of snaps, that feels like a stretch, if we're being completely honest. Now, I do think there are situations where you would rather have him lining up a defensive end rather than DeMarcus Walker. I do think he's a better speed rusher than Walker. And I've said all along, I think Walker as a fifth defensive lineman is an ideal role where he could play some edge, he could play some 3-tech, you can move him around. But based on what you have, he's got to be a starter. So unless they feel like Jake Martin is ready to step in there and be a starting defensive end, I guess they're saying 3-down defender. I don't know. I still feel like that's a little tongue-in-cheek. Like maybe they're just playing the PR game of like, yeah, we don't really need to go sign somebody and hoping a free agent's price comes down or something like that. So it's hard to know for sure. Right now, if you had to say, who is the Bears' number 2 edge? Is it Jake Martin or is it DeMarcus Walker? Type JM for Jake Martin, DW for DeMarcus Walker. I think it's Walker. I think he's a more complete player. I do think Martin's a slightly better speed rusher, but I would have to lean Walker. But again, ideally, he's a guy who can move around on that defensive line, which I think he will. All right, thanks for tuning in to Chicago Bears Now. And again, if you're an NFL fan, college football fan, even if you're not a college football fan, there will be a ton of NFL content. YouTube.com/@4verts. If we get to 200 subscribers on our new YouTube channel before our live show tomorrow at 4 o'clock Central Time, I'm knocking out a beer boot for you guys before our Madden simulation. So be sure to join us for that tomorrow and go subscribe to 4verts. We would appreciate it.